There I go. Right? Yeah, that'd be nice if people tell me things when you have
What is up, everyone? You know what time of the week it is. It is SFL Podcast time. I am Andy Hamilton. As always, I'm joined by Mighty, who I believe just started taking a phone call. Mighty, are you there?
I am here, present, willing, able, no fable, near the table. I'm ready.
Well, at least you didn't sign to a label with those rhymes. All right. And then we got Mahmoud Ajalani, who has joined us for the first time. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right.
For those of you
for this thing.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who don't know him, he is a player on the Atlanta defense, free safety. Is that correct for the positioning?
Yes, it is.
All right. I pulled a position out of the top of my head, and that was correct. So that'll work. And we might be joined later by a few more people. Might not be. You never know. Sometimes these things get crazy. As always, we start with our recap of last week, and boy, Mighty, we had some good games, did we not?
Yes, we did, Andy. Give me a second. I'll be right back to you. Go ahead and carry it.
Okay, well, Mahmoud, we'll start with your game then, with Atlanta taking on Baltimore at home. The Crabs had won 2 games since that. This one was on YouTube with Shan and myself on the call. Atlanta went ahead and got the win. As a player on that team, what kind of win do you think this was for your guys?
Well, it was a big win due to the fact they were coming in hot, and they were winners of 2 straight, and we were also coming off a big win. So it was a heated up matchup between 2 Eastern Conference foes, and our defense helped us out pull this win.
Yeah, the defense definitely helped, taking 3 interceptions away from Matt South in a game that to that point, I thought was pretty close. And then, kind of once that ball started getting turned over, it really swayed back in the other direction.
Yeah.
You had a new quarterback, right? DeMar Woods made his debut for Atlanta and had 3 touchdowns to go along with 3 interceptions. What did you think of him, Mahmoud?
It was all right. Not bad for his first career start. Just need to work on the interceptions, but other than that, he seemed very promising. A great addition to this offense. Yeah,
I mean, you'd imagine that with your first start, there's going to be different trials and tribulations you got to go through. You might throw a few picks. So that could get cleaned up. 31 of 39 is a pretty good number line for 262. And I like the 3 touchdowns. That complements well. And the only other thing I really have to note is that BDG Hollywood was struggling in this game, man. 20 carries, 50 yards, only 2.5 yards per carry, and no touchdowns for him. That's pretty surprising for a season, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's been pretty struggling the past 2 games, but he'll probably get back on start because we have been facing tough teams with tough defenses. So hopefully he gets back on track next week against Chicago. Another tough team. Yeah,
you're definitely going to need him in order to advance far in the playoffs. Let's see, Mighty, are you back with us?
Yes, I am, Andy. This was one heck of a ball game. It was a nip-tuck affair for the majority, and then in the fourth, that's when Atlanta really started pulling away and kind of put their footprint and imprint on the game. The fact that they were able to, kind of slow down, not stop, but slow down Sanzo and kind of corral him a little bit helped him a great deal. We already know coming into this game that Atlanta has one of the better run defenses in the league. So them being able to continue that trend helped them quite a bit in, pulling out this victory this past week. So kudos to them. Can't wait to see what they do now, especially with now that they're the number 1 team in the SFL. With that bullseye on their back now, going to be, nice to see them kind of try to defend and represent that.
Yeah, definitely. The Eastern Conference heating up. Baltimore was having a pretty good run, so Atlanta kind of puts that to bed. And that was our first matchup of the week. We'll move down to the second one. Oklahoma City headed to San Antonio, and Greg Corky, first win in his career, 23-17. The Vaqueros beat the Renegades. Greg finally got his win. He only had to wait 1 week after losing to Vancouver, and he was able to make it happen against an Oklahoma City team that has kind of fell flat on their face after winning some games early in the season. Mighty, we'll start with you. What did you think about the way this one played out and how Jason German kind of took over this game after really sitting out of the last one?
Yeah, I don't know what happened in that last game when they played Vancouver. I don't know if they were trying to prove a point, or maybe he violated some team rules and they want to have, him participate in the competition. But this past week against OKC, they were like, okay, you're back. You're back to being part of this team, and part of this team he went out there and did his thing, as well as they took a slow lead over OKC. Like if you watch that game, it wasn't like they jumped out to a big lead and then slowly but surely they got 3, then they got 7, then they got, and it's like they slowly built up a lead, and then OKC came out of nowhere, just started firing back, and it looked like OKC was gonna pull that comeback off, and it kind of fizzled at the end. Like they ran out of, because of how far down they were and the time constraints. It's like they ran out of ammunition to kind of mount a complete comeback. So kudos to Greg, that first W, brother. Hey, let's see if you could get another one, put 2 together. That's called a streak, I believe. And then for OKC, like the things y'all did to get back in the game, let's see if we can accentuate those and get rid of the stuff that kind of put y'all in the holes to begin with.
Yeah, it was a tough game for the Renegades, though. I mean, they really just kind of, in my opinion, struggled to get the passing game going. 26 completions on 49 attempts for 2 touchdowns. The 2 interceptions didn't help, and Pete Bruschi really kind of didn't even play a factor in this game. We got Shan Varner, who joined the call. Shan, did you get a chance to catch the Oklahoma City and San Antonio game? Shan has turned into a motorcycle, apparently. I'll guess that's probably a no. We'll send it to Mahmoud. Did you get a chance to look at the game, man?
Yeah, it was a tough one throughout, as we had a scoreless first quarter in this one. And Oklahoma's been struggling the past 4 games. Started off 2-0, looked very promising, and then after that, they just...
Well, there you go. It sounds like that's pretty much what Oklahoma City has done in the past 2 or 3 weeks. They haven't really showed up in the way that they should, especially in the second half against Mexico City last week. And this week, San Antonio was able to get the better of them with 423 yards. German does his thing on the ground, 156 yards. And the Vaqueros get their first win of the season. We'll keep moving here. Next up, St. Louis in Florida to take on the Tallahassee Pride. And Frank came in and was the heavy favorite and kind of ran away with this one, 44-10 over the St. Louis Gladiators. Mighty, we'll start with you because you might be the only one whose microphone is working. What did you think about the way the Gladiators played as one of the only winless teams in the league now?
Sorry about that. The wife was just on the horn with me. Yeah, a lot of interruptions this afternoon. I don't like people. Andy, pass that question along. I'll be back to answer it.
Okay, we'll throw this one then to Mahmoud. Hopefully you are back on the call with us. Over 500 yards of offense for Tallahassee. What were you thinking about the way that their offense was moving, and how do they look in the Eastern Conference as kind of a threat to Atlanta?
Yes, sir, but then my mic went off for a second. But Tallahassee is playing super incredible right now, as they just took off from this one from the start. Never looked back on it, and their defense did a great job holding St. Louis to only 171 total yards, and they forced one turnover, but their offense pretty much held it down on their side. So their defense really just had to stop St. Louis from scoring.
And that they did. They limited them to only 10 yards on 9 first downs. They were 1 for 13 on third down. That's a third down percentage of 7% for those of you that can't do the math. They only turned the ball over once, so a pretty easy and clean game for their offense in terms of interceptions, but only 1 touchdown through the air. Adam Fennell didn't get going. 21 carries, 59 yards, and 2.8 yards per carry as the Pride kind of dust the Gladiators. Shan has said that he's got his mic fixed. Shan, what did you think about the way that the Pride played?
I think it's just what they've been doing all season. I think they're just playing their game and not really worrying about anybody else.
And that seemed to work for them against St. Louis, who remains winless halfway through the season and will look to try and put some more on the board. Still not out of it, though. With 6 wins, they could potentially make the playoffs, so still plenty of time. We'll move next down the list to a team that won their first game again this week. Carolina was at home. They welcomed Cleveland and the Stallions to Raleigh, North Carolina, and defeated Cleveland 61-41, bringing out the 60 stake and taking down the Cleveland Stallions, as McWavy Jr. has 352 yards of offense, but throws 5 interceptions to combat the 5 touchdowns he had, And Mark Biddix goes 25 for 34 with 4 touchdowns and only 2 picks and gets the better of Cleveland. And Shan, I know you're going to love this one, but Johnny English wakes up, 18 carries, 256 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns on a 14.2 yard per carry average as the Carolina Skyhawks finally get their first win and pretty much just looked like they were running away with this one. Shan, you're a former Skyhawk. How did that win make you feel for Mark and Heath and them?
Oh man, it was great. I think they played exceptional ball. I think that's what they needed to do. They needed to come out and get this win against a team that lets up a lot of yards defensively. I'm super ecstatic about Johnny English and them getting him going and letting him do his thing. Through the air, I think Mark Biddix was outstanding. He had a really good game. He's right now, he's third in all-time leaders of this season. So I think if they can just keep this up, they got a good shot against Queen City.
Yeah, I think if the defense can play up to the same level, Blake Herman, Tristan Hatley, and Greg Reedy all had an interception on the day, and then they had 2 more to combine with that. Sean Harrelson also had a great day, 4 receptions, 154 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns for him. Heath McDaniel Jr. also had 2 receiving touchdowns. So Biddix, he threw all over the board. If Mighty's back with us, we'll swing it to him. What did you think about the Cleveland-Carolina game?
Talk about a turn of events. Tuesday night, during the gigantic announcement, Carolina forgot to get off the bus. And it was, I think, like 42-3 at halftime. The following week, it's like, you know what? We're going to get off the bus with extra people. You know what I'm saying? And they dropped a 60 burger. And then turn around and you look at Cleveland. Okay, Andy and Shan, y'all are both owners. Y'all will get this. If I ask y'all this question, if coming into week 7, that's the week where, it starts tomorrow. If I tell y'all team will score 41 points, would you take it?
Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you. I'll take that.
If I come around and say, okay, you still won't be in the game if your team scores 41 points. Like, that's what happened. The last 2 weeks, Cleveland's offense has just been explosive. But their defense has been, sums up with that D, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they're doing in Cleveland, but that defense isn't stopping anybody or even trying to, and that needs to be addressed for them to be competitive this season.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, we'll swing it to Mahmoud. What did you think about this game, man?
Cleveland's defense is all right, but this is the second time they've allowed 60-plus points in this season. Mac Wavy puts up some good stats, but his touchdown to interception ratio is even. Throws too many interceptions while throwing a lot of touchdowns. So he needs to maybe work on that. Cleveland has a good offensive attack as Jared Martell had 4 catches for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's good, but they just allowed too many points in the first quarter as Carolina scored 35 in the first quarter alone and just kept going on.
And Mac Wavy Jr. learns the throwing game and the passing game from Steve Mullinex from his time in Dallas. We'll go to the Dallas game in Dallas at Mullinex Oil Field. Vancouver came to town on Sunday night and or not Sunday night, excuse me, Sunday afternoon, and Vancouver wins. That'll make 2 for them in a row, 24-13 over the Dallas Roughnecks. This one, Dallas was never really out of it, but Vancouver outlasted them. An interception for Terry Crow. Tom Pepper stays pretty clean, 22 of 28 for 290 yards and a touchdown, 2 interceptions in the game. And then Ivan Sanchez really just took this one, 30 carries, 117 yards, 3.9 yards per carry, and 2 rushing touchdowns on the day. And then on the Dallas side, 34 for 48 was synergy, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. And then through the air, the only person who really got a touchdown was Miles Morales with 1, but Juan Bosco was really the only other one who could make plays. 18 catches for him, 193 yards, but Vancouver able to keep him out of the end zone. Mighty, we were talking about this game beforehand. What did you think about the pair of wins now Vancouver has been able to string together?
They're streaking in Vancouver. That was a nice win. But like we were discussing prior to the show, this is the scary part about Vancouver. At least, having to prep for Vancouver soon enough, because the Storm have to see him in 2 weeks. If they ever find a way to get Yvonne loose, man, that team's gonna be a pain and a half to prep for. So I just hope that Andy, go ahead, take your time, trying to figure out how to get Yvonne ready. But besides that, dude, that was a complete game they had last week. Tom Pepper looked good. The defense was sound. They forced Dallas to work the field, and in doing so, Dallas proved too tall a task for the Roughnecks to do. So congrats on Andy for that second dub, and I can't wait to see what changes Steven Mullinex makes to kind of to get his team back on its winning ways.
Yeah, the Roughnecks trying to stay in playoff conversation, considering that, the Western Conference really kind of shook up this week with the way that, the wins folded out and the losses were handed out in a way really is more what told the tale. Some of those teams like San Antonio and Vancouver who were near the bottom got wins, and teams like Mexico City, Houston, as well as like Dallas, for example, who's right in the fold of things, fell trying to just really stay pace with their lead. They were playing teams in some cases like this one below them and trying to keep their stock where it was, and instead they fell, and now it makes the whole picture in the Western Conference more interesting. Sham, what did you think about the way that the Dallas and Vancouver game played out?
I like both defenses. I think did a pretty good job. I think where the difference is going to be the offense. I think Vancouver was ready to come out and play, and unfortunately Dallas was not.
And that's pretty simple in terms of how it gets. Mahmoud, we'll throw it over to you. What did you think about that and the way that the Western Conference is looking by this point?
Well, with Dallas playing Sioux Falls next week, who was coming off a win against the undefeated Aztecs, it shapes up the whole conference, as now Dallas needs to win to kind of stay in the talk of the playoff race. Otherwise, they'll be in trouble.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. At the top of the table, things got interesting as well as Alaska, who was coming in as an underdog, taking on the undefeated Houston Hyenas on Sunday night, was able to get it done, 24-23, a very close match on paper. Houston had more rush yards, 160 for them with 337 passing yards. Alaska only 287 passing yards and 67 yards on the ground. Cochran stayed clean, though. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for Alaska there. And then on the Houston side of the ball, Cantrell, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 30 of 40. And William Choice went 160 yards on 27 carries and a touchdown. Mighty, first of all, congrats on getting that, as it makes the Western Conference a lot more interesting, as you're right up there at the top. As well as, what did you think of how not only your team played, but how the Houston team came out firing and how the game ended up?
It was on all week long, because as a lot of people know, a lot of the Alaska players are coworkers. And I'm telling them all week long, dude, I prepped as best as I could, and we going to lace them up one shoe at a time and, and hope for the best. And whenever we play Houston, it's a battle. It comes down to the final play or plays, and it's, one mistake, one early mistake could be the reason why you lose, or a late mistake could be the reason why you lose. And I'm just happy to walk out of there with a W. The fact that they missed 2 kicks again against us. That's the second straight game that their field goal kicker played a gigantic game in the, gigantic part in the game. That's the difference. The playoff game last season, they make one of those kicks, they win the game. This past Sunday, same deal. 1 or 2 field goals that they goes through those uprights, and they're still in D, and we're 3-3 and trying to figure out what did we do wrong and what do we need to fix and all that good stuff. So, that defense was just problematic. Odom could not get free. Kit Moore was all over Odom before he even got the ball. He was like he was living in the backfield, and it was just a great game by Houston. It's just, one of those things, man. Part of that build is, am I going to use it on a skill player, or will I, put on a kicker that I don't, But like Ramos and I got that running gag. Whenever a missed field goal is, we hollering at each other because we know what it is. Those we want those points to be as guaranteed as possible, and that's why we carry kickers. So kudos to Houston. I have an odd feeling in the rematch later on this season that they're gonna give us the business. So I ain't looking forward to that game.
Yeah, I think the rematch is slated potentially for September 10th. Mahmoud, we'll send it to you then. What did you think about the way that Alaska played and how they took down Houston for the first time that Houston's lost all season?
Well, it was a very close game as both quarterbacks performed very good. Ron Cochran had a clean sheet. His longest pass went for 70, and I believe that was a touchdown, right?
Yep. I think so, yep.
Yeah, and Houston defense had a hard time stopping him. Ash Odom, he had an all right game, 17 carries for 70 yards, but no touchdowns. But that was still all right in a tough, undefeated team at the time. And it must have been heartbreaking for Houston to lose from missing a field goal to take it home. And Alaska played pretty good. Good job to Mighty and his team. Good win.
Yeah, it was a very good win. Sham, what did you think about the way that Houston played? And what they need to correct going forward, if anything? I mean, the 2 kicks, you know what it's like to lose by a heartbreak kick that really you can't touch. Is there anything in their game that you think needs to be changed?
Not really. I think that for the most part, I think Houston played a great game defensively and offensively. I think that the biggest turnaround was that Alaska was able to keep it clean in the air. no turnovers or anything like that. So that made it even harder for Houston. And then the 2 missed field goals, they would probably have won the game. Matter of fact, they would have won the game if they had probably got those 2 field goals. So I don't think they'd enter. I mean, they'll have to obviously prep for Vancouver next, but I don't think, not a lot of changes because when you over change things, you overthink things, then I think that's where the mistakes come. I think that just some unfortunate mishaps in this game was the determined factor. So.
And the factor went Alaska's way. In other Western Conference news, Mexico City goes to Sioux Falls, and the Sparrows defeat the Aztecs for the first time. So 2 undefeated teams go down in the last week as Mexico City only scores 17 on Sioux Falls. Really, the tale of this tape was Ray Bentley looked somewhat human, going 21 carries for 87 yards. And Matt Wilson struggled. 25 throws, caught out of 40, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. And then on Tyree's side, Tyree really played a bad game. 4 interceptions, no touchdowns for him. But Kevin Clancy, 16 carries, 167 yards, and a touchdown. Big day for the running back in Sioux Falls after they didn't carry one last season. And Kevin Clancy carries them over the Mexico City Aztecs. Shan, we'll go to you first then. What did you think about the Aztecs game, and is there something that they need to change moving forward?
Well, first of all, I can't believe it because, Mexico City, they just look so unstoppable. And for Sioux Falls to come in and basically shut Bentley down was just phenomenal. I think that, I do think that Mexico City has to go back and reevaluate some things. I think they need to not necessarily change a whole lot of things because, like I said before, you don't want to change too much. But I think they need to change maybe how some of the stuff they do on defense. Limit it, increasing the turnovers and that sort of thing. So,
yeah, this really shook up the Western Conference. We'll swing it to Mahmoud next. What did you think about the way that this game played out, man?
Well, Julian Tyree it wasn't his day. 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. That usually you'd see it. You think the team took the loss, but luckily for them, their running back stepped up and also the defense with the fumble for a touchdown, Alex Parker. That helped a lot. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been pretty for Sioux Falls. And they did a good job taking down Mexico City, who I thought were one of the best undefeated teams.
Yeah, I think I was on the same boat as you. I think they were an incredible team, and I really didn't see them falling here. Mighty, did you see the Aztecs falling, or did you think they would have run away with this one against the Sparrows?
I didn't think they'd run away with the game. I going in, especially this being a rematch and both, we know Jason's and AJ Levy's acumen. So I didn't doubt that they'd put up one heck of a fight, and kudos to them for that, that game plan they put together to stymie Ray Bentley and kind of have to force Matt Wilson to be, the hero in this game and, kind of save his team, in those second and third and long situations, as well as being able to overcome, as Mahmoud just stated, the 4 interceptions from Tyree. Tyree has. Speaking of Tyree, a caveat. We're gonna go off the tracks for a little bit. Speaking of Tyree, has not looked good this season. Like he's almost been an impediment to Sioux Falls' offense a little bit. It's been all Clancy. Clancy through the air, Clancy on the ground. Clancy's been he's been the chain mover. He's been their touchdown scorer. Tyree's struggled a lot, and for Sioux Falls' sakes, I hope they're able to kind of remedy that and at least be get him to average level type play, if not better, for them to have a run and for them to make the second season and then on top of that for them to be able to make a run in that second season, because as it is, man, they're becoming a very one-dimensional, and that you don't want to be that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You want to be somewhat balanced, because if not, and people take away that one dimension you're good at, that could spell doom quickly for Sioux Falls. So, but anyways, I'm thinking down the road. For right now, great win, game plan, force Matt Wilson to beat you, and then corral him when he went for whatever throws he makes, and not letting the receivers get all those yak yards. Congrats to that. Sioux Falls, listen, man, I don't doubt Jason, and I don't doubt AJ. I know what they about in Sioux Falls. It's all D. That's why I love me some Sioux Falls. I love defense. Sioux Falls is defense. The only time I don't love the Sioux Falls is when we got to face them. Besides that, I'm in their camp. It's almost like I'm in their coaching meetings, but I'm not. But I understand the mindset. So that's all I'm saying. So we all know Ramos. You got to stick over there in Mexico City. I have no doubt in my mind that whomever they face this week, y'all better be ready for an angry, Ray Bentley, Orb Dad, he's coming to hurt folk. So either get ready to hit back or get out the way, because some people about to get hurt when they play this week. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Sioux Falls got the job done, able to beat the Aztecs, but I think the Aztecs will bounce back. And like Mighty said, I don't think Sioux Falls is necessarily a runaway with it winner in the Western Conference just because of this one game. Let's move to the Tuesday night game. The Wildcats headed to Buffalo to take on the Queen City Corsairs. Shan, we might dig deep at you here, so hopefully you'll stick with us and won't hate you. And I'll just kind of start. It was real rough for Chicago. They did well through the air, 21 of 28 with one touchdown, but Deion Hawkins did absolutely nothing. 22 carries, 60 yards. That's an average of 2.7. It wasn't enough in the ground game, and in my opinion, they gave him 22 carries. When you're only throwing the ball 28 times, that's a little too much on the ground for that little bit of a yards per carry. On the other side, Caswell, 27 of 33 for 3 touchdowns and a pick, and Walsh ran all over him, 26 carries, 150 yards for a touchdown, and Memphis blew 3 touchdowns on 103 yards on only 6 catches. So the guy caught the ball 6 times, and 3 of them were touchdowns. A real rough game for Chicago, who I've had trouble getting a read on, because some weeks they come out and they look strong, and then other weeks they come out, and they trip and fall. Mighty, what do you read when you look at Chicago, and then at Queen City? Do you really think that this is a team that can win that number 1 seed?
Definitely, when they're like Queen City looks like they're just building upon last season. Last season it started slow, and then when they were able to find themselves and and find their identity, that's who we are, that's what we do. You know what's coming, and it was like a seal here and a seal there, and here's an alley. We're coming in the alley. Stop us if you can. And last season nobody could, and that's why they walked away with a W. And instead of reinventing the wheel, as Queen City sometimes does, this season they said, "Hey man, it worked so well for us last season. We're gonna keep this ball rolling." And so far this season, only one team was able to decipher them. So definitely I could see them, getting that number 1 in the East. It's gonna be interesting though, because down the line they got a couple rematches. They got to face some familiar opponents. So, who knows? But right now they're in great shape. And for Chicago, it's one of those. You thought some things would work, and they kind of backfired. So burn the play and move on. And then when you have to face the team again, you know how to, better prep for what they're throwing your way. So it's all a learning experience as well as a long season. And this is far from done. Fortunes may turn in an instant. Just keep doing what you're doing, Chicago. You're right in the midst of everything.
Mahmoud, you on the Atlanta Swarm have Chicago kind of in your rear view mirror. You're keeping an eye on them, I assume. What did you think about the way they played against Queen City, who's kind of, you're bumper to bumper with them? And do you think this is a team that is going to be in that conversation in the next, 5 weeks when we're talking about which teams are on the doorstep of the playoffs? Or do you think this is a team that, could struggle and miss?
Well, Chicago's an unpredictable team. They're 3-3, but those wins, they play like the best team in the league, and then the wins, they're not so pretty while they're doing it. We have them up next week, and I don't think it's gonna be an easy game. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a close one, and best offense probably gonna end up taking it. But they have a solid roster. It's just I have no idea. Like Mighty, they're a shaky team, and I don't know if that's gonna help them take the number 1 seed or be a top team in the East come when we're talking about the playoff race.
Shan, that is your team. I know we've talked, you and me extensively, and you have some younger, less experienced coordinators that you're trying to, kind of help and work with. After a loss like that, what are you telling your guys?
Just to stay focused. I think the biggest thing is that we don't get too far away from what we're trying to do, and that's to win games. But you have to keep it, simple, stupid. You have to make the things that work for you work, and the things that don't, like Mighty said, throw those away. We learned, this week that certain plays we fell short on. Not saying that they won't work ever, but just this week here, we just game planned incorrectly. So facing Queen City, we knew it was going to be difficult. Excuse me. Especially in the run game, trying to stop Walsh was one of our biggest keys. And when we tried to do that, it left some guys open downfield. So, like I said before in many podcasts, you're going to have to pick your poison. You're going to have to pick which one you're going to try to combat. And unfortunately, we chose the wrong one. So Queen City was ready for us. And I think they play a solid equal game. They run the ball some. They pass the ball some. I think that right now their offense is really clicking, and they're going to be a tough team when we face them again in week I think it's week 11.
So at the midway point of the season, the conferences are as follows. Tallahassee is 5-1. Queen City also 5-1. Atlanta is still up there at 5-1. Then we go down to Baltimore at 3-3. Chicago is at 3-3. Cleveland sits at 2-4. Carolina got their first win to become 1-5. And St. Louis still winless at 0-6. Obviously, no one is out of the playoffs because with only 3 wins garnering the 4th spot, anything can happen. And then on the western side, Mexico City is 5-1. Houston is also 5-1, both of them losing this weekend. Alaska is 4-2 with the win. Sioux Falls is 3-3 with the win. Oklahoma City is next at 2-4 with the tiebreaker over Vancouver. Vancouver is then 2-4 with the tiebreaker over Dallas, and Dallas is 2-4 as well. And then San Antonio with their first win improves to 1-5. Looking at the last week, Mighty wanted to go over what we thought the best play of the week was. Mighty, what play this week do you think was the best one? If he's here, he might have stepped away.
I'm here. I just had the thing on mute because there's a lot of commotion where I'm at. I was gonna go the fancy, pretty route. Pick the most dazzling play. Nope. My play of the week, at least to me, was a simple play. It was a good snap, a good hold, a good kick by Max Moholt of the Sioux Falls Sparrow. That's my play because that field goal in the 4th quarter, which were the only points scored in that 4th quarter by both teams, put Sioux Falls ahead for a good neck ball game. So to me, that's the play of the week that knocked off an undefeated team and that just capped off a great game plan that came to fruition by Jason and AJ. So that's my play of the week. Y'all might have some fancier, more dazzling stuff with some bells, whistles, and the shiny. I like the simple stuff that wins ball game.
For me, I'm going with the pick six in Atlanta. That really, I mean, Shannon and I were on that game, and that pick six really just turned things around. The momentum was all kind of going for both teams. You know, you had both of them playing well here and there. Atlanta had just gone up a second score, and that pick six really blew things out of the water. And Baltimore started to get in a lot of trouble after that ball got turned over and taken to the house. So that's it for me. Shane, do you have a favorite play from the week of action?
I do. I'm going to have to say and stay with my alma mater. I think I'm going to have to go with Johnny English on I believe it was a 70-yard touchdown run up the middle.
Yeah, English was all over the place this week. Mahmoud, did you have time to think of a play there?
Yeah, my favorite one, I'm probably going to go with Alex Parker fumble return for a touchdown. That was a big play that was a solid start to the game.
Yeah, that was a good one. Next, we'll swing it to the power rankings. The power rankings come out every single week, and we got some movement here. Atlanta moves up to number 1 with their win over Baltimore. Mexico City is at 2. Tallahassee at 3. Queen City at 4. 5 is Houston. 6, Alaska. 7, Sioux Falls. 8, Baltimore. 9, Chicago. 10 is Dallas. 11 is Vancouver, who is up 3. 12 is Cleveland. Oklahoma City is 13. Carolina is 4. San Antonio 15. Excuse me, I started skipping the teens there. And 16 is St. Louis. So the order goes Atlanta, Mexico City, Tallahassee, Queen City, Houston, Alaska, Sioux Falls, Baltimore, Chicago, Dallas, Vancouver, Cleveland, Oklahoma City, Carolina, San Antonio, and then St. Louis. I don't see any too big discrepancies here. I like Atlanta moving over the 2 teams who lost their first game. I think Tallahassee was a little bit more impressive than the third spot shows. I think Mexico City might have the power to go to third here and maybe even fourth, because Queen City had a very strong win as well over a Chicago team that has shown its strength at times. But other than that, I think the middle area is kind of a vague zone. I like Alaska being above Sioux Falls despite both of them winning. Because of the way that Alaska, beat the upper and better team. Baltimore, I think, is good at 8. And then, down the line, it gets a little more vague. I do think Vancouver should be over Dallas, considering they just beat them. So that's an interesting placement to me at 10 and 11. But with that, I think Vancouver is the 11th best team. I think, to me, Oklahoma City is a little low on the list. Mighty, any gripes with the power rankings as they stand?
No, not really. I don't know. For the most part, they look good. I'm in the same boat as you, though, between Dallas and Vancouver. The team that kind of won out of that matchup should be the team that's ahead, but it's a minor gripe. If Vancouver keeps going about its recent ways, like this will be all for naught. They're slowly going to make that climb to the top.
Shan, any gripes with the power rankings?
No, not at all.
That was short and concise.
Well, everything looks pretty in order. We lost to Queen City. We dropped 1 spot, so I can't complain about that. I do have to agree with you and Mighty with the Vancouver and the Dallas, but it is what it is. I think that the way Vancouver has been playing, they're going to step up more than that. So this week really doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to them. Dallas, if they can't, pick it up, they're going to be behind Vancouver anyway. So I like the power rankings this week.
Rastelli says that Houston should not be at 5. I can't tell if that means they should be higher. I would assume so, considering that moving them lower would move a team with less wins over top of them. And Greg says the Vaqueros are just glad to be in the rankings. Well, you're ranked above St. Louis, so you should probably be a little bit more happy than that, Greg, because you're a team on the move. Team on the move. Mahmoud, do you have any complaints with the way that the power rankings look for now?
No, not at all. I'm actually impressed with Atlanta claiming the number 1 seed. Mark's been doing a good job running the team. And I was actually pretty happy when we saw us with the number 1 seed. And that's about it. Everything else looks fair and square.
Okay, let's run through the slate for next weekend. We'll all pick a game we're excited for and kind of talk about it a little bit. Sunday at 3, Colin Northrup is on the call for Queen City at Carolina. Mike is on the call on YouTube simultaneously with Tallahassee taking on Cleveland. And then Alexander Shayatovich is on Rabbit for Oklahoma City and Alaska. Then at 5 Central, 6 Eastern, St. Louis is taking on Baltimore with Shan and I on the call. And then Yvonne will take San Antonio and Mexico City on Rabbit as well. Sunday night, Cam has the call. Sunday night, Curtis has the call, which is Atlanta and Chicago. He will be joined by Demond in the booth, so that is exciting. And then Monday night, Cam has the call with Sioux Falls and Dallas. And then Tuesday night, Eric Vincent has Vancouver and Houston. We'll start with Shan there. Which game are you the most excited for? And then tell us a little bit about the matchup.
I'm excited for Tallahassee and the Cleveland game. And the reason for that is because both of them can put up large amounts of points. I think Cleveland is struggling a little bit with their defense, but they can get the ball going on offense. And I think if they just keep a clean slate and don't turn the ball over as much, I think they'll have a good shot at Tallahassee. On the flip side of that, Tallahassee does a really good job running the ball and passing the ball. So if Cleveland can't, stop Kim, then they're going to have a long day. And I think that's going to be a great matchup because in the air, Cleveland can put up a lot of points. There's just something about that matchup right there. I'm just thinking that, Cleveland has a shot at Tallahassee.
All right, we'll swing it to Mahmoud. What game are you looking forward to the most, man?
The Renegades and the Storm game, only because this one has – will the Renegades get back on their winning ways after a slump, or will Alaska Storm will they keep their win streak alive at home?
Wow, a very interesting choice. Very interesting choice. Mighty, you are the man in that game, but which game do you look forward to the most?
There are a couple games that have my attention this week. But the one I'm really paying attention to is that Dallas and Sioux Falls, because this okay, that's interesting. That Dallas Sioux Falls game, I'm gonna be watching that one intently because we know Jason and AJ could coach. We know Dallas. And it's the rough Stephen Mullinax. We know he could coach us in defense. So we already did discuss Tyrese kind of struggling. The Roughnecks are struggling as a whole. Somebody got to win that game. If it's Sioux Falls, they're setting themselves up for a great second half of the season run.
Absolutely.
And they also setting up Dallas for one heck of a battle to get back into contention in the second half. If Dallas wins it, hey, maybe they found the recipe to what makes their team tick, if and for lack of a better term, so that game is kind of pivotal for that, for this playoff seeding in the West now. And that Chicago game, Chicago did not look like themselves last week. We already touched upon that. Can they hold fort against the number one team in the SFL? It's going to be great. It's in Chicago. Can Dion, Lil Mo, can they show up for this ball game and give us a show? Because, hey, I tuned in to watch a show. I want to be entertained. Like gladiators are going at it. But I ain't talking about the ones from St. Louis right now. I'm talking about just, football, helmets, just hard hits. That's why those are two games that got me excited. But especially that one in the West, because the playoff seeding is starting to shape. Is the second half of the season. It begins this coming week. Let's see what these coaching staffs got for each other. I can't wait.
Andy, I'd like to add something to what Mighty just said. Speaking about St. Louis, things have shifted as far as their coordinators and that sort of thing. So you might see a brand new St. Louis offense on the field and defense.
Yes,
going into the game against Baltimore. So that might be an exciting game, something that you wouldn't necessarily look at. You would see St. Louis with an 0-6 record, and then Baltimore with a 3-3 record, but they have lost 3 times. So it's not out of the woods that St. Louis can't turn their season around now and bring the upset and beat Baltimore.
No, I completely agree. I think with the way that St. Louis shifted up their staff, sometimes, breathing new life into a new staff is one way to turn things around. And you very well might see a tight game there. The one for me this week, I'm excited to watch Queen City and Carolina with Colin on the call at 4 Central, 6 Eastern. Carolina got their first win in a huge fashion, scoring 61 on Cleveland. Mark and Heath got to know what it takes to win a game in the league like this, where you have to put so much preparation in, and then still be able to throw your hands up and go, you know what, it's up to the computer now. And so I'm excited to see how they're breaking down the Corsairs and what they think the best course of action will be and how that'll pan out for them.
I agree. I think that Carolina has a chance to beat Queen City, to be honest, because they're really effective in the air. I think if they can just slow down Walsh, I think that they'll have a good shot because their corners are not there for Queen City. So this might be a chance for Mark Biddix to come in and take advantage of that, where Chicago couldn't do last week. So, there's always room for upsets everywhere.
Right.
I think you touched on that in that matchup there, Andy.
Vancouver and Houston is the choice for Rastelli in the chat. That one should be good as well on Tuesday night with Eric on the call, as Houston, coming off a loss, runs into a team that has 2 wins and is on the uptick after beating Dallas as well as San Antonio. Lastly, the last thing I want to get into here with our last 7 or 8 minutes here, I want to start talking MVP race. We're at the midway point in the season. We could have done a mid-season awards. We decided to keep it a little simple. At the midway point, we're going to go down the line and we're going to talk about who everyone thinks is their MVP candidate that they want to stick with. For me, it's the man himself from Mexico City. I got Ray Bentley. Over 1,000 yards halfway through, over 1,100 yards halfway through. 1,162 yards for Ray Bentley. He had a rough week last week, but if Mexico City gets him back on track this week, this man's a dangerous, dangerous man. Mighty, we'll swing it to you. Who is your MVP at this point in the season?
I really like Kyle Walsh. He's kind of the engine that gets Queen City going. Usually if Kyle Walsh has a good game, Queen City's in good shape. If Kyle struggles, they struggle. Like I said, to me, it's Kyle Walsh. He is that man. He is that man.
Fair enough. Shane, we'll go to you. Who is your midseason MVP at this point?
We have to go with Mark Biddix.
Oh, wow.
I think that his numbers show it. He has 193 completions. Excuse me. He has 193 completions with 274 attempts, and his quarterback rating is at 89. He has been sacked a lot, but the yard after carriage, and he has 13 touchdowns right now.
Fair enough.
With 11 interceptions, but at the same time, he's getting 7 yards per attempt. So,
yeah, I think that's a very interesting choice. With the way that Carolina's been playing, and with the way that that the quarterback stats are right now. Biddix is only the third or fourth best quarterback, so to have him as the MVP, I think it's an interesting choice. I don't know if I would agree with it, but that's why it's your choice, not mine.
Well, we'll take it as this. McWavy gets on an interception race right here. He's not making completions. People are staying back. They're getting interceptions off of him. Sebastian Synergy from Dallas, if they don't turn things around, can't get things going, Mark might be your guy at the top in a couple of weeks.
And then, Mahmoud, what player do you think is the MVP at the midway point?
I'm probably going to give it to Christian Christensen because he's a rookie leading a Tallahassee team to a 5-1 record that's actually competing for the number 1 seed. He's having a pretty good start to the season. 1,785 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. And I believe he's 4th among quarterbacks for most passing yards. So it's pretty tough to lead a team to 5-1 as a rookie. That's why I'm picking him.
Fair enough. Liam has hopped in the chat. Liam,
Hello.
Hey man, how do you think? Or we're wrapping up here, but who do you think is the mid-season MVP?
Me. I'm the MVP. I'm the real MVP. Now, mid-season MVP.
We've the ones that have
Probably
been said. We've got Bentley on the board. Mark Biddix was on there. And then we threw Christensen on there. We've yet to talk to Mighty, but we wanted to get your opinion first.
I'll go with Bentley. I don't know of any other player in the SFL who could be indicted for murder after the season is complete. So I think I'll probably go with Bentley. That man is he's a walking tank. So, yeah, I'll probably go with him.
He's been running all over the board. And really doing his thing. I guess last we'll swing it to Mighty. Who do you got as a mid-season MVP, man?
You already came my way. I did say Walsh.
Yeah, Walsh. Yeah, I couldn't remember who, and I was like, I guess I must not have asked him. AJ Levy in the chat wants us to go and talk about the defensive side of the ball too, which is important. On the defensive side of things, I got Caden Carter, the strong safety in Vancouver, and you can call me a homer if you want, but I think his stats back it up. 56 total tackles, and that's 9.3 per game. He's got 9 passes deflected, 3 tackles for loss as a strong safety, which is saying a lot. And then he's got 5 interceptions on the season. Obviously, he's chasing Kaleka, who's got 9, but 5 is the more realistic top number. Kaleka is just an animal. But more tackles than Kaleka does, more per game, more passes deflected, just, needs to catch up in the interception race. But I got Caden Carter as my guy on the defensive side. Anyone else want to chime in with some defensive guys?
I'd have to take Avery King for Queen City.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Anyone else?
Troy Lowshaw, probably for me.
Yeah, he's been having a very good season as well.
Those people. Look, stop. I'm gonna interject. All these people are all right. Y'all love people that run around. Get full heads of steam, hit you. I like people that get 2 steps before they hit you. I like the big uglies. You know what I'm saying? I love me some big people. Mind you, I'm diminutive. That might play a factor why I like to surround myself with people that are bigger than me, so I feel safe and protected. So saying all that, ludicrous in Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's run defense is ridiculous right now. Like, it's not good. It's ridiculous right now. And he's a gigantic factor as to why they are that. I believe he's either 2nd or 3rd in the league right now in tackles for losses. And it's just, what he's doing over there is just stupid. So I want to make sure that the big uglies get recognized. So Ludacris, big up to you, sir. You're the defensive player I keep my eye on a regular basis.
Yeah,
see, we didn't want to mention his name because it gives us nightmares. It gives me nightmares. So,
yeah, he's 2nd in tackles for loss, and he's tied for 1st for individual sacks and tied on the, So, yeah, Ludacris is a big guy in the middle. Plays very well. Obviously, I think needs to be talked about in the conversation. He had a great game against Baltimore too. So, the defensive guys are people too, AJ, and we will recognize them as well. I think that'll just about wrap it up. I think we've covered everything we need to cover, and we're looking forward to a great week of action tomorrow. Anyone have any final last words?
No.
All right, silence is the best medicine. For everyone here at the SFL Podcast, we thank you guys for coming back out. We like to keep things short and concise, talk about only what is necessary and not really, blabber on for too long, because I know you guys don't want to hear me talk any more than I have. I've heard the petitions to try and get me off the games. Just kidding. For everyone here at the podcast, thank you guys. And